Well, 19 games into the Premier League season, if you've backed every home win on the money line, you've had 10 winners, but you're losing money to level stakes. You're also losing if you've bet the away team or the draw. 11 games have been over 2.5 goals, 8 unders, and with the over round to average odds, you're also losing to level stakes. Likewise, both teams to score, yes. Both teams to score, no, you're not winning. One simple trend has come good over weeks 1 and 2 of the Premier League, and that's following Nigel Seeley's and Jack Wright's picks. The boys are 9 wins from 12 with a return on investment of just over 50%. This is Betting Weekly Premier League show with myself, Dan Roebuck, and Nigel and Jack are back once again. Nigel, the wider point that I'm making here is that with early season, we touched on it last week, there aren't too many trends to go on, but you can still make money. And at the moment, maybe it's more about feel, experience of how the market goes, and maybe even that gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great start, as you said there, 50% return, some really nice profits here on the show. I mean, the thing is really that I've said it before in a couple of shows we've done before. I think the early part of the season is how you think the summer recruitment has gone and how you feel that teams ended last season. And it's a bit hit or miss. Usually I always say in August is a bad time to bet, but this time around I've had the best start I've ever had to a football season. Hopefully that's a good omen going forward. It's not only in the Premier League, it's been in the lowest English league and it's been across Europe as well. The European handicappers have been doing very, really well. So the form from last year hasn't really changed much. Manchester City at the top of the table, Brighton are doing well, as we knew they were a very good side. The teams that we expect to struggle are struggling. So, I think for us, though, the big thing last week was getting that late goal for Nottingham Forest. That sort of gave us some momentum and a turning point. It was a double play. And in seasons gone by, that probably wouldn't have happened. But I think the biggest thing for me on the Premier League this season is what we spoke about in the Future show, the changes with the extra time. I think that's just showed you. I mean, total goals now are averaging at 3 a game in the Premier League, up from around about 2.8 this time last season. Bookings are over 5 a game now in the Premier League. The amount of red cards there's been in the first couple of weeks as well. And corners have gone up a full corner from last year. So that's what we did say, that the derivative markets would definitely be the way to profit. And that's definitely proven the place in the bookings and on the corners. But as far as the form book is concerned, it's pretty much the same as last year. And at the moment, there isn't one team that I can think, they're going to really have to have a rebase on. Usually it's one team every year. We've got to have a rebase on that side of what we thought. At the moment, it replicates the form we expected at the start of the campaign.
We can get suckered into backing teams off the back of one performance, Jack. You didn't last week. Really good example about Brighton's away game at Wolves. Wolves off the back of that United defeat. They had 23 shots at Old Trafford, most by an away side since 2004. But you still thought, look, Brighton are the play here. Wolves were backed over the course of the week, and it's just not as simple as making those knee-jerk reactions early on. And as Nigel has pointed out, Brighton were in good form last season. They've continued it on this campaign.
Absolutely, yeah. I think at the start of the season, as Nigel then said, we've said it before, that you kind of back your judgment against the traders based on what you expect the season to be like. The great thing is you don't have to back every game. You don't have to back every team. So pick those that you think you've got an edge on. And absolutely, yeah, like sometimes you want to swim against the tide. At the start of last week, I couldn't have backed Brighton because the price wasn't good enough for us to put forward on the show. As the week went on, my kind of eyes opened a little bit and I was like, oh, yeah, we're now actually got a decent play on here because it fitted the criteria that I wanted. And I say, same thing happened with Newcastle. Money came for Newcastle after that 5-1 victory against Aston Villa. Few problems for Manchester City. City opened up, I think, round about minus 217 at the start of last week. And an hour or two before kickoff, they were into minus 109. That was like a great value play. Too late for the show, unfortunately, but it's one to certainly keep an eye on. Sometimes it does pay to swim against the tide.
And just one thing on market movements I've noticed this week, Nigel, I was just looking at the price of Aston Villa this morning, and off the back of a really good win over Hibs. Okay, I'm not quite sure what level Hibs are in the Conference League, but you win 5-0 away from home in a competitive game. It's got to mean something. I just looked at the price against Burnley. They've drifted. They were minus money, they're now plus money. Burnley have been backed. I don't know if it's because there's been reports that they've beaten Manchester United in a behind closed doors friendly. I don't know anyone who's watched that. I don't know what it's worth. Don't know what the teams were. But sometimes information gets filtered through and the lines can change. And usually Premier League, yes, they can move, but not massively until maybe team news happens. And I just thought it was an odd one, the way that the market has moved. But you can get stories that will shift the line.
Yeah, stories about. I think it would have been favourites behind closed doors against Manchester United the way they're playing at the moment. So I don't think it would have been a massive market move. I think it's probably to do with more of an Asian move. If there's some team news coming out, as we know, there may be an injury to Aston Villa, key like Watkins or something like that, who's such a key player. So that usually a big move before a match is because a key player is not playing. So it could be something like that. And the other thing is, well, Aston Villa, their first road match, against Newcastle, they were absolutely shocking, weren't they? I know they were brilliant last week, but I think the market may not have gone overboard on Aston Villa. It may be a huge negative towards Everton, the team that they beat last week and thrashed them. So, I think it's more to do with that than anything else.
Let's get to the serious business, shall we? Because we've got plenty of picks over the course of the Premier League weekend. I'm taking it seriously, shirt and tie. I got the memo from Bet Rivers. Obviously, Nigel and Jack didn't. Did you not get that email?
Well, in danger here. Nigel, I don't know what's going on.
Do you know what?
Did you not get the memo for the code?
When it popped up, Jack, I thought it was like homeschooling again during the COVID. The geography teacher, Mr. Roebuck from class. That's what it looks like. History course from Mr. Roebuck. Naughty students, Seeley and Wright, we're in detention with our school teacher.
The discipline has gone already when it comes to the attire. We're going to kick off Saturday morning football, stateside at least 7:30, early kickoff Eastern time. Is Bournemouth against Tottenham. Bournemouth plus 275, Tottenham minus 109 off the back of that good win over Manchester United, of course, last time. Both of our handicappers have got to play in this game. Couple of questions for you before we get to the picks. Nigel, this one's for you. Harry Kane's gone. He's gone to Bayern Munich, scored on his debut in the Bundesliga. Does that take the pressure off Ange Postecoglou or not? How do you see Spurs off the back of jettisoning their best player?
Well, I think the good thing for him is he's got the fans behind him straight away, haven't he? The scenes in the win over Manchester United, you've never seen Tottenham like that for many years. So I think the fans like him. I think he's a likeable character. They like the style of play he's made. They like the changes he's made. He seems a really nice guy. And he seems to be getting the best out of the players. And obviously for those players, a lot of them might have been in the shadow of Harry Kane. Harry Kane was Mr. Tottenham. I'm not saying that Tottenham are a better side without Harry Kane. No team probably in world football would be a better side if Harry Kane left them. But I think there might be some of these players emerging now who haven't been putting in the shift, who actually now feel, you know what, this is my time to shine. Bazuma has been exceptional in his first two matches, man of the match in the two matches he's played. A totally different player than what we saw last season. And Maddison, now, he's been made the vice captain at Tottenham. He's moved to a big club. He's been given the faith on the manager. He looks as though he's going to play for the manager. And there's like this really good feel-good factor around Tottenham at the moment. And I expect them to have a good season. But on the flip side to that, let's not get too carried away about Tottenham. Let's remember, under Nuno Sanchez, it was Espirito Sanchez, Tottenham were top of the league after 2 or 3 matches. And they had a brilliant start. I think they beat Manchester City in the opening day. He was gone after 6 matches. The crowd surrounded him. So it does change very, very quickly. But I think Postecoglou will actually get the support from the fans because they'll feel sorry for him having to sell Harry Kane. So I think all is quite good at Tottenham at the moment, and I like him. I like him here.
And just sticking with the managerial theme, Jack, a question for you before we get to the tips. Andoni Areola at Real last season, both teams to score, 23 out of 38. Nearly a 7-point profit for level stakes. He started this season, looks like he's going to play this chaotic brand of football. Fun to watch, and it's one of those things that, from a betting point of view, you're going to have to get quick to these new managers, whether it's Postecoglou, whether it's Iraola, whoever's coming in to try and take advantage of any trends, because the market reacts quickly and it settles quickly, and before you know, the value's gone.
Spot on, yeah, exactly what I've got down, really, to be honest. I think sometimes when you get managers in, and we've got 2 here, obviously, you've got to try and go, what we're going to get from it. And it might be a bit of a watching brief, but I think these have got very set templates. We realistically should know exactly what we're going to see here. And they're very similar styles, actually, these two. So as you rightly say, it should open up to be a fun game. But this is a perfect example of where lines haven't been set for the new manager, the new system, and more on the old system, where last season, 14 out of 38 were both teams to score. 14 out of 38 were both teams to score for Bournemouth. You'd have lost 11 units on a level stake going on that, but it's completely different with Areola, absolutely.
Yeah, different manager, different stats, different way to make money, perhaps. Let's get some picks then from the boys. Nigel, you're first up. What's the bet here?
I'm just going to play it very simple. I'm going to go for Tottenham to win this match at minus 109. They were minus 113. It's gone in our favour a little bit at minus 109. I just feel that that win against Manchester United and what we saw, the scenes in it and the team spirit and the morale around the club. First, Tottenham's been end of last season, they were in the doldrums. They had the Kane situation over them all the way through the summer. And now they just seem like they're going to play with a bit of freedom. I really like the way they set up. We've mentioned Maddison, I meant Basuma. Richarlison still hasn't done it yet, but the goalkeeper I thought was exceptional, Vicario, in the match against Manchester United. I thought he really had a good game. Manchester United deserved probably to get a goal in the second half, but he pulled off some amazing saves. I thought they played well in patches against Brentford, but a trip to Brentford is always a very tough place to go, as Arsenal fans will be able to tell you that when they lost on the first day of the season. But they didn't lose. They fought back. They got the 2-2 draw. And they've got goals in them and they've got confidence. And I just think this is a good time to play Bournemouth. I know they went 1-0 up against Liverpool, shocked to go 1-0 up, but they showed nothing when Liverpool were reduced to 10 men. They had an opportunity to take it to them. They never showed anything. It was like they were fearful. And it was Liverpool who were much the better side, despite being down to the 10 men for half hour, 35 minutes of the second half with the sending off in that match for McAllister. But I like Tottenham. I think Tottenham here are going to be a side that are going to do well this season. I'm not saying they're going to finish in the top four, but I quite like the look of them for cups, the way they play. I quite like it. They've always been a good bet in the Carabao Cup. They've always been a good bet in there. And the way he sets his side out now, they look exciting. I think Tottenham games are going to be good to watch this year. I think Maddison could turn out to be one of the signings of the season from the early days. I just feel that he's got the faith that he's been striving for. He wasn't a certainty to play in the England squad. He's now got a manager who completely gives him the ball and lets him go. I think he's a quality player. His assists last season were exceptional in a Leicester side that struggled with relegation. And going here, I know he hasn't got Kane to put the balls into, but I think he might score a few goals. I might look at him to go over a certain goal line or something like that if anyone bet that. But I like Tottenham. -109. So just very simple. Tottenham to win this match at Bournemouth, -109.
Same game, but slightly different angle. For Jack, what's your play?
Yeah, I'm going for over 2.5 goals and both teams to score. I think I'm on the same page as Nigel as what I expect from the game. It should be good fun. They traded 3-2 wins last season with the away side win on both occasions. So that was with two different managers, and these two look to be even more positive and more front foot. So it should only be a great spectacle for the neutral and for the player and people who are at the Vitality Stadium. I think under Areola, we mentioned what he's brought to the table, how he will go. He was on a shoestring budget there. We don't really have a comparable in kind of the Premier League because we've still got a lot of money sloshing around even at the lower reaches. The money Bournemouth have spent this season is quite an eye-opener, really. But he took 10 points off Barcelona. So he, across his 4 games over 2 years there. So he is prepared to go toe-to-toe even with the biggest in a certain league. So what I like about the styles here is that they're pretty much mirrored. They're both going to be looking to win balls high up the pitch, which should leave a lot of space behind. And if people can break through that press, that's been proven by only Bayern Munich across the big 5 European leagues. One forced more high turnovers leading to a shot than Rayo under Areola last season. So he's obviously looking to implement a similar style. It did pay off at the start of that game against Liverpool, but also where Tottenham will look to take advantage of that is that they concede so many opportunities and chances. 42 shots conceded across the 2 games so far is an insanely high amount. And Spurs do have the players to make the most of that. We are waiting for their forward players to catch fire. What is a good thing for them is how they're going to replace Harry Kane. Well, they need to chip in all over the place. And we've seen goals from the defenders. Romario scored, Sarr scored as well. And Emerson. So there's been goals provided deep on the pitch. Basuma, as Nigel says, looks back to his best that we saw at Brighton. Maddison, of course, you've said everything you need to know about him. Fantastic player. They also gave away a lot of chances against United. 22 shots, XG of 2. Bonkers game against Brentford on the opening day of the season. So a similar pattern here would suit me perfectly well. There was 4 goals in the first half there. They both took the lead. They both threw it away. So, yeah, that just seems to me that there looks to be a lot of chaoticness about this game, a lot of opportunities, a lot of chances, and I think there'll be players on the pitch to take them at both ends. And obviously, for the sake of the show, we'll be hoping that Tottenham come out on the right side of it.
Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals for Jack at -129. Let's move on to Everton versus Wolves here. Everton +135, Wolves +220, the draw +230. This is bottom versus second bottom, Nigel. This could be a long, hard season for both, but we're still in the early stages of it. What's the play here? What do you like?
Well, it's a little bit lower odds than I usually play, but I just think you can't get away from the under 2.5 goals in this match. I think it's probably one of the banker bets of the coupon in the Premier League. You've got to be quite brave. I've said to you, the Premier League is averaging 3 goals per game, but you obviously need players on the pitch who can actually put the ball in the back of the net to give you any cause of concern. I don't see that in either of these sides. I mean, Wolves create all them chances against Manchester United who couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, which is a concern for me. People look at the XG sometimes, and I've always been a lover and a hater of the XG. And when someone says, "Oh, a team created 23 chances and 2.4 goals, but they lost 2-0, they're unlucky," I think that's a bit crap, really, because I think that the guys, if they had a good goal scorer, they would have scored. So you could create 22 chances the next match, and without a goal scorer, you're still not going to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's the case of Wolves. They create a lot of chances, but they haven't got anybody. They haven't had anyone for years to score the goals. They got a consolation goal against Brighton, but Wolves have always been lacking a top-notch striker. They've got good midfield players, pretty midfield players, and obviously guys who can cause goals from set pieces, but striker, they've been lacking one for years. And Everton, talking about a club in complete turmoil. I mean, they were dreadful against Aston Villa, absolutely dreadful. Lost 4-0, could have been 6 or 7. I mean, the first half, it was shocking. But then, arguably, their biggest 2 attack threats, Alex Iwobi, he's out injured. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's out injured. And when you looked at the bench in that match, well, anybody who's betting over 2.5 goals, Neil Maupay starting, well, you got no chance of cashing with him. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's. Well, anyway, my comments on him is it. But if you're an unders bet and you see Maupay lead the line, then you must be you're laughing all the way to the bank. And then the other subs they've got, I mean, they're out of the youth side. Lewis Dobbin, Jarrod Braithwaite. I mean, these are all kids. These are all 16-year-old kids. Shirt numbers of 67 and 69. Like, they've got no one in this squad. I mean, they're really down to the bare bones. They can't score goals. My only fear here is Wolves beat them by 3. I'm more worried about Wolves winning this match than Everton actually doing it. But in the early day of the season, these two sides have had an awful start, both of them. And you say bottom and second bottom. It looks to me as though this could be played out. There's just damage limitations. Let's take a point and let's rebuild next week. We can't lose a third match in succession. Let's get a point and build from that point. And already, I think if both managers were offered a point, given the way they are, a new manager at Wolves, a manager of an injury crisis at Everton, confidence at the lowest ebb it's been for years, I think they might settle for a point. And already, only 3 matches in, the 0-0 detector has been bleeding. I have upgraded it now. I got a manual through from Taiwan. It had all the different settings I had to do. It took me ages. I had to ring Dan Roebuck up to help me because I know he knows everything about technology. I went through the settings, and now it's functioned with the extra 10 minutes, and it is bleeping 0-0 for Everton Wolves. But instead of doing the risque bet, I'm going to play it safe. Keep the profit growing. Under 2.5, -141.
0-0, incidentally, +800 at the moment for that game, if you fancy, if the radar is working. Let's talk parlay here. Love this bet. Jack's come up with something a bit interesting for us. It's a cards bet, and it concerns 4 matches. Nigel's sort of already talked about cards, but Jack, you just give us your sort of thoughts on the card situation at the moment, and obviously you're thinking that FA directives are going to kick in with further cautions. Just give us your card take before we rattle through the games and the bet that you're interested in.
Yeah, we had a chat offline, didn't we? And you said, what's the difference as far as the cards are concerned? Nigel's touched on it already, and it's been a massive difference, to be honest. Last season, using like one card for yellow card, 2 cards for if it's a red card, basically 1,431 cards. That's an average of 3.77 per game across the whole of the last season. We've had 19 games so far this season, of course, with that one being postponed. We've seen 105 cards so far. That's an average of 5.53. Small sample size, but obviously nearly an extra 2 cards per game. Going into the exact detail, for the same time last season, there'd been 75 from 1 extra game. That's an average of 3.75, so even a little bit lower. So absolutely, we're seeing a lot more cards due to these directives. Having a little bit of a breakdown as to what the cards are for. We've had 14 so far for time wasting, but the big difference is that Descent, 23 for Descent so far this season against 12 at the same point of time last season from one extra game. So I think that there's an opportunity for the take. There's a couple of bets that I liked at the start of the week where the money went and it became impossible for me to put on the show. So I thought, rather than go with another unit on a full selection on one game, there's a few that I like. So I picked 4 out and I've reduced the stake right down to just a quarter of a unit, so 0.25. So if you're normally putting $100 on a straight unit bet that we put forward, there's $25 for this one, with the idea that we can get a couple of units profit when it lands.
Go on then, tell us the games, rattle through the games and tell us the bet.
Yeah, I'll be quick on them. I basically look for the games that I think there's a little bit of edge in them. There's been a bit of history as far as cards so far this season, and I've got a decent referee in charge, or a combination of all of them. Brentford Palace is the first one. So London derby, 4 cards in the game last season. So far this season, Brentford games have seen 5 yellows and 1 red, and a 5. Palace have seen 4 yellows and 1 red against Arsenal, obviously just gone, and 3 yellows. The referees, Peter Banks, he's given 5 yellow cards in both of his games so far. Averaged 4.33 cards last season, which was the second highest average of all the referees as well. So I'm going over 4.5 cards in all these plays, by the way. Next game is Everton Wolves. We've touched on already. It's already a relegation 6-pointer 3 weeks into the season. There was 13 cards across the 2 games between the 2 sides last season, including 7 in this exact same fixture. Everton games this season have seen 7 and 2. Wolves games have seen 10 yellows and 1 red against Brighton, where they got thumped anyway. So interesting. And 5 yellows in their opening game. Referees, Craig Pawson, he's had a warm up in midweek and shown 6 yellow cards, and was actually the referee in this last season when he showed 7 yellow cards. Happy days. Man United Forest is the third leg of the parlay. I think both these sides got points to prove. Forest will be desperate to try and get a point at Old Trafford. Man United are obviously getting quite a lot of stick in the media, and I'm sure from their own manager. There was 4 cards in this meeting last season. Man United have been pretty average this campaign, 4 and 5 yellow cards in their games. Exactly the same for Nottingham Forest, 4 and 5 yellow cards. Referee Stuart Atwell, number 9 as far as the yellow cards given out last season is concerned. But I just feel he's one of those referees I like when there's a little bit of edge in a game, because I think he can lose control a little bit, tends to let it go, and then it'll just burst into life. The final one's Brighton versus West Ham, which was a little bit of a surprise one, but we have got a clash of styles here. And we've also got the second highest collectors of cards so far this season. Both have picked up 8 so far already in just 2 games. Brighton's games have seen 10 yellows and 1 red card against Wolves, and then 4 in their opener. West Ham have seen 6 and 1 red and a 5 as well. Referee, though, Anthony Taylor, shown 6 yellows and 7 yellows so far this season in his 2 games. He showed 114 across the campaign last season, which was the highest of any referee. And he also had the highest amount of red cards as well, with 4. And he's already shown 13 in his 2 games this season, which is the second highest total. So put them all together. We're looking at a couple of units profit for a very low risk on it, 0.25.
Nigel, your thoughts on the party? You talked about cards in week 1 and said, look, it might be worth getting with cards in certain leagues. And I think off the back of what you said, there was 4 in the National League. If you played the doubles and the trebles, you absolutely cashed a lot. Is it the time to play this type of bet, do you think?
I'm always a little bit skeptical. I mean, you can't deny the work and the effort that Jack has done there in the stats and stuff. But I'm always skeptical, so I feel like I've missed the boat. I'm always like to be on the front end of trends and stuff. I don't like to come in 3 or 4 matches after. I always think I want to be going the opposite way. When the general public wants to be betting overs, I want to be betting unders. That's my strategy. And I think if it continues on this week and it continues on next week, and hopefully we cash his ticket. But if the lines get silly where they get up to like 5.5, I'll be doing the same parlay, the opposite.
Yeah.
I just think it just gets to a stage where it just goes totally the wrong thing to do, is to do that, to go with that bet, because everyone's doing it. And I feel like anytime there's an incentive and a new change of the thing or anything in the World Cup, I've said it in the previous show before, the first couple of games, yeah, there is, and then all of a sudden it gets back to norm. I just cannot see how this will sustain all the way through the season. And at the moment they've been descent, but as the time goes on, they'll be much more lenient. They are. They're trying to make us get, and I think obviously the injury time will come down. The point, the matches, the time wasting. I think people will learn not to time waste as much. I think that's a big important factor if you're betting on the over on the bookings, as we said there, with the extra 10 minutes and a half. I think that's huge. But for me, I'll go with it this week. And if he comes up with the same one next week,
you've got the boss's blessing there, Jack.
He's getting one of them. If he comes up one of them next week, he's getting one of them. He's getting a red because we're going unders next week.
I agree. I've looked at it.
Timing's everything. Timing's everything.
Yeah, I've looked at it and thought I want a couple of weeks to see how.
Or missed timing in tackles Nigel. In this case.
He's got a giant red card behind him. Oh, damn.
Yeah, look at that. But I think the time, my personal take is I think the time they're going to reset is the international break's coming up in 2 weeks' time. And I think that might just prove that ideal 2 week when they come back and go, oh, it's dropped back down. The lines have gone up a bit. It's a close call, but I think they're just about on the right side of the minute. When only one game last week saw under 4.5 cards, and that was Spurs. There's huge amounts across all of them last week. So.
I think it's a good play. I think timing is everything. You've got to catch it right. It's a good discussion. Goes the other way, as Nigel says. Then you start to look at the unders. We've got 2 more games to preview. We're going to go Arsenal-Fulham next up. This is another 10 a.m. Eastern kickoff for you. Arsenal prices have changed a little bit. They've come in minus 455, very short. Not the shortest on the weekend slate. That honor goes to Man City. At Sheffield United. I initially thought here, Nigel, that Arsenal a bit workmanlike in wins over Forest and Crystal Palace, and you thought, can you get at Arsenal? And then you think, but it's Fulham, and Fulham have been poor, and Mitrovic has gone. Give us your take and give us your play.
I think it's pretty much that. I mean, I'm very rarely like to bet Arsenal, and the reason why I don't like to bet them is because I feel they're another public play. I think everyone. The media attention around Arsenal. Even when we met a few times last season, I just couldn't have them winning the title at the stage when they were. I just kept.
I completely agreed with you, of course. But
you disagreed on everything I said. But, anyway, but that I just thought they just wouldn't want to do it. They surprised me actually how well they've started this season. I thought they played really well. Forest, there was a stage where Forest played exceptionally good. Declan Rice was exceptional in the last match, in the last win. But I just think this is more a bet that. I know people who are talking about Arsenal win the Champions League and stuff like that. And they're going to win the title this year. Arsenal win nothing until they get a goal scorer who's going to get them 25 goals a season, like a Haaland or a top centre forward. They get one of them, they can be talked about as potential champions of Europe. But at the moment, they need a striker. But in this match here, I think this is more about Fulham being really bad. I think we have to have talking about clubs that rebase from last season. I think if you looked at the adjustment from the ratings of teams this season to last season, I think Fulham on Everton will probably go back, but I think the biggest change would be Fulham. I think Fulham are in real problems this campaign. I wouldn't be surprised to see the manager walk. I think he wants to go to Saudi. It's clear he's made it. He looks disinterested. The 3-0 home defeat against Brentford looked like a team that are in absolute crisis. They did play Everton in the first game of the season and won at Everton. It just shows you how bad Everton are. But Fulham, without Mitrovic, I mean, the skipper, Ream, is out suspended for this match. Defender, he's a big loss for them as well. He's got the sending offs in that match. He doesn't play. Mitrovic doesn't play. Where are they going to score? They go to the Emirates, and the Emirates, as you know, Dan, you're there every week working away. Arsenal always score at the Emirates. I mean, the last 25 matches at home they've scored. In 17 of those matches, they scored 2 goals or more. So they're always good for a goal. I can't see where Fulham are going to score. I just can't see how they're going to score. And if they do score, it's going to be a consolation if they're 3 or 4 behind. I can see it ending 3-1 or 4-1 or something like that. So I think Arsenal win this really easily. I think they get 3 points, continue their 100% start to the season in the Premier League. But it's not because I think Arsenal are going to be huge contenders. I think they're going to be up and about it, but I don't think they're going to change Manchester City. I think they'll be in a race for second with Liverpool. I think Liverpool will come good. But I think it's because Fulham are dreadful. And I think they have big problems. And at a big price, I think Marco Silva could be the next Premier League manager to have a walk. I think he's worth an interest here, because I think if he loses this match and then loses the next couple of matches, and they get in and they've got no money to spend on a striker, and he wants away, I think he'll just walk.
Just to remind you of the bet then first.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go for Arsenal minus 1.75 on the Asian handicap here at minus 122. So we need Arsenal to win by 2 goals. If Arsenal win by 2 goals, half of that bet is a winner. If Arsenal win by 3 goals, we cash on both. So we need Arsenal to win by 2 or more goals.
Just very quickly, Marco Silva plus 1100 to be the next manager to leave after Julian Lopetegui's already gone, and Fulham plus 350 to be relegated. Small stakes interest on those two?
Well, I'd rather take the manager to go than the 3.5. The reason why it's 3.5 is because there's Everton, there's Luton, there's Sheffield United. I think this is a much, much worse league, Premier League, than last year. I think the teams at the bottom 6, 7 are a lot worse than they were last year.
Brighton-West Ham is the last game that we're going to cover before we just get some best bets and any leans from the boys to wrap up with. Jack, you've got a play here. Brighton are short at minus 200, West Ham plus 510. Brighton actually outscoring XG at the moment, which was a massive problem under Graham Potter. Roberto De Zerbi is being lauded as potentially the replacement for Pep Guardiola. West Ham, I thought, were looking in fits and starts against Chelsea to win that game by that 3-1 scoreline last time out. What's your take here? What's the play for Brighton West Ham, which is 12:30 Eastern Saturday?
Yeah, I'm going for Brighton to win, but I've gone with over 2.5 goals as well. Was tempted with both teams to score, but I really can't put lots of faith in West Ham scoring for sure. Although Brighton do love to leave the back door open. And I just feel that there was going to be goals in the game. We've seen what De Zerbi's about. He's done superbly well. Started the season on fire, picked up where he left off last season. Riding the crest of the wave, aren't they? They really are like performing exceptionally well. You're right in what you say that we always talked about lots of XG. Nigel touched on it earlier in the show. XG is only good if you've got a striker that's going to be able to take advantage of the loads of chances.
They got rid of Mopé, though, didn't they? They got rid of Mopé.
Exactly what say. They had Neil Mopé, who missed 7 or 8 chances a game. They've now got Ferguson, obviously, who's highly rated, being linked with big moves elsewhere. He's on the bench last week, and they still scored 4. João Pedro came in from Watford, scored in the first game on the bench last week, and they still scored 4. They've got 3 players who've already had 3 direct goal contributions. They've got the left back, Pervis Estupiñán, who's scored and assisted twice. They've got Solly March, who's now a goal machine, having not scored for 2 years. From when he after the World Cup, he's now gone on a great goal scoring run. He's now joint top goal scorer in the league with 3 goals. Mitoma as well, who's got a couple of goals and an assist. And I read a really interesting piece on his science of dribbling during the week, which was quite interested about what he's done and how he's gone about setting defenders up to be able to take them on, and it's great on the eye.
Sounds like Nigel after a few
I was just saying, there was a lot of silence of dribbling on last Wednesday between the 3 of us.
What a lot of straight dribbling there was there at all. Yeah, so I think this is a very much a clash of styles. Absolutely, Brighton versus West Ham. And you're right in what you said. As much as they beat Chelsea 3-1 last week, I think that was a very fortunate result. I think David Moyes knew that and admitted as much. I've never seen a manager kind of quite so down as him as after a 3-1 win. So again, the Brighton fans and the media loving De Zerbi, what he's doing and the exciting ways he's playing with Brighton. And it's the opposite, really, of West Ham, and we're sort of waiting for him to bide his time and move on. So this one ended 4-0 last season. Like I said, Brighton do give up chances as much as they've overperformed their XG in front of goal. They've been quite fortunate. They've played a couple of sides that don't take their chances this season, and I think it's time to keep going with Brighton purely at this moment in time before they have to start playing European football. And I think then it will take its toll a bit. But at the moment, they've got the momentum, they've got the players, they've got the system and setup that works superbly well. The rotations are even working also. And I think they could take West Ham to the cleaners here, but equally a 2-1 or 3-1, that wouldn't surprise me either. So I put the juice in with the over goals because I can see plenty in the game, and Brighton coming out on top of it.
Good stuff. Final chat here. What's your best bet of the 3, Nigel? What's your best bet of the 3, do you think?
I think Everton Wolves under 2.5 goals is my best bet, minus 141.
Yeah. Jack, best bet of your 3 plays this weekend?
Yeah, my best bet of the 3 would be under 2.5 goals in the Wolves game as well. But mine, Tottenham. Goals in the Tottenham-Bournemouth game.
And just one last thing before we wrap up here. I saw a tweet, Nigel, from yourself talking about Pep Guardiola saying, look, he's going to miss games on the sidelines. And that, could be as big as missing De Bruyne. And although you might have been sort of over-egging the point, the market moved in Sheffield United's favour. It's incredible, isn't it? Sometimes those little snippets the team use or just news, and we talked about the Burnley behind closed doors friendly, they can just affect the market. It was only for about 24 hours and it's reset again now. Sheffield United such a massive price, but I can only think that there was just that little spike because of news like that's incredible. You've got to keep your ears and your eyes open over the course of the betting week.
I wasn't over. I was being general. I was being honest. I don't think it is in their games.
He misses 2 games, doesn't he? He misses 2 games.
Yeah, well, it was Steve Risch who actually told me the games. He responded with the Reds. But I think if Pep Guardiola was out against a Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, or in a Champions League quarter-final, I think that would be as a bigger loss to Manchester City.
Well, it happened, didn't it? It happened in the Champions League semi-final against Liverpool when Mikel Arteta stepped in. And, of course, Liverpool won and Pep Guardiola wasn't on the bench. So
whatever happened to him, that Arteta? Did he do anything?
Don't know. He's not kicked on, has he?
Anyway, thanks for any detentions or any. You got it's lunch break now, so we're all going to go out.
Yeah, listen, there's some lines coming your way. Don't worry about that. Nigel, Jack, thanks for your company. Good luck with your picks over the course of week 3 of the Premier League. From all of us, it is goodbye. Stay across all of our social media content at Because We Win. That's it for this week.